Chapter 1. What kind of mother gives up everything and never tells her child? Helen thought silence was love. But secrets don't stay buried forever. Helen Strong got up at dawn like she had for 40 years. Coffee, no sugar, just a splash of milk, bread, yesterday's. The toaster had been broken for a month, and fixing it seemed pointless. Her son didn't eat toast anyway. Carbs kill energy, he said on his last visit. And now he didn't visit at all. The chicken soup, simmering on the stove, bubbled like it had something to say. Helen checked. It didn't boil over, an old habit from when every drop was precious. Back when Josh was in high school and had laundromat wages barely covered milk, textbooks, and cheap gas. She never once complained, not when she sold her grandmother's china to fund his science camp. Not when she signed over her inheritance to her sister just to get that cursed college loan. Not even when he forgot Mother's Day 3 years in a row. Well, so what? Helen muttered, wiping her hands on her apron. He's got a career. A girl, a spot on TV. The doorbell rang. She flinched in her neighborhood. Nobody just showed up. Josh stood there in a suit, expensive shoes, and behind him, a tall woman with the kind of face that looked like the air here offended her. "Hi, Mum," he said. "We're passing through. Mind if we stay the night?" Helen smiled the way she always did. Not too warm, not too cold. The kind of smile a mother learns when she doesn't want to burden her child with her emotions. "Of course, sweetheart," she said, looking at the girl. "Come in. Nothing's changed here." She didn't know it then, but that night would change everything. Dinner played out like a poorly cast play. The girl, Madison, wrinkled her nose at the soup. "Oh, you still eat chicken. That's quaint." Josh gave a weak smile. "Mum, Madison and I have a plan. We're thinking of buying a place in Sonoma. Eco-friendly, spacious, but we need to sell something." Helen froze. "What exactly?" "This house," he said. "It's in your name, but you're here all alone. We could build something modern, for all of us." "He wants to sell her life," ran through her mind. "I'll think about it," she replied. Only one word trembled. That night, she crept down to the basement. In the old dresser, sealed in an envelope nearly 20 years old, lay the truth, the will, the deed, the signatures. She looked up at the ceiling. Above her slept the people she'd built her world around. "How much longer do I keep paying for my silence, Helen?" What happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how this unfolds. Chapter 2. She gave up everything for him. Now he's asking for the last thing she has. But a mother who mastered silence sometimes speaks loudest with action. "It's just a house." "Mum," Josh said like he was talking about an old teapot. Helen stared at her son and barely recognized him. He had the face of someone used to contracts, overpriced coffee, and words that ruined careers. But she wasn't a client. She was a mother, and she knew exactly what every brick in that house had cost her. Not in dollars, in graveyard shifts. In dreams she buried alive. In pride she learnt to swallow. "How much do you want?" he asked, nudging his plate. She laughed, loud, almost scary. "I want you to remember whose kitchen this is." Madison stiffened in her chair. "Is that a threat?" "That's the sound of a woman who stayed silent for 40 years and is done with it," Helen replied. "Enjoy your meal." The next day she removed every photo from its frame. Silently, Josh noticed, doing some remodeling. "No," she said. "Just realized this house has too many faces that haven't looked my way in years." He didn't get it. Of course he didn't. The boy she once carried through kidney pain and bruised ribs now spoke to her like a real estate broker. That night, Helen opened the safe. Inside was an old folder, a will drawn up before Josh had even started college. Papers proving the house wasn't legally hers. It still belonged to someone else. Her sister, Mary, the same Mary she hadn't spoken to in 18 years. Because Mary knew, she remembered 2005, standing in the bank with a shaking hand, signing away her rights. Her sister had hugged her and said, "You're crazy. He'll never understand what you just gave up." Helen never wanted him to understand. He didn't need to know she gave up her half of the family estate so he could go to Berkeley. But now he wanted to sell a house that wasn't even hers on paper. "So, Mum," Josh called down the hallway, "you thought about it?" She walked out slowly, robe, no makeup, no more pretending. "Yes, I thought," she said, "and I decided we're going to see your Aunt Mary." "Mary," he blinked. "You haven't talked to her in forever." "Well, I'm talking now. Time to open old doors." Some of them creak pretty loud. The visit to Mary was like walking through a minefield in slippers. Mary lived in a trailer. Dogs, cigarettes, suspicion in the air. "What the hell do you want?" Mary asked, barely opening the door. "To say thank you," Helen said, "for signing everything over back then." Mary laughed. "Well, look who remembers. You need the house now." "No, sis, I need the truth." That night, Mary told Josh everything. About the papers, about the signed inheritance, about how his mother had lived in a home she didn't legally own so he could have a future. Josh was silent, his face like a child who'd just watched his whole Lego city fall apart. "Why didn't you tell me?" He whispered to his mother on the way home. "Because I didn't want you to carry guilt. I wanted you to carry possibility." He sat on the porch steps, head in his hands, silent for the first time in years. "Mum, I'm sorry," she nodded. "I'm not angry. I just want you to understand. Silence is a choice, and it has a cost. This is the turning point. Everything you've waited for, it's right here. Stay to see how the hero finally fights back." Chapter 3. When a mother stops being convenient, the son must decide, save face or save his soul. Sometimes the truth doesn't hit the past, it wrecks the future. Helen didn't expect an apology. She'd lived long enough to know that people say sorry for everything, except what really matters. And Josh was no exception. The next morning, he acted like nothing had happened. "We're going to a real estate office. Gonna check out a few lots," he said, pouring himself coffee into her #1 mum mug, the same mug he'd given her in 8th grade and promptly forgotten. Helen just nodded. "Good luck," she said out loud. Inside, come home with one more brochure titled "Flatten Mum's Life for $500,000, and we'll see who's the real contractor here." He left, and she stayed, with the same photos she'd hidden in a shoebox, with letters she never mailed, with documents she feared to open. She went to the pantry and pulled out a box labeled, "Josh, do not touch, family history," and started digging letters from Josh's father. The very ones that came for 2 years after he disappeared. Not died, disappeared. Like a sock behind a dryer, used to exist, probably still there, but unreachable. The man who left just to clear his head for a few days and never thought of them again. She had never shown Josh those letters. They were pitiful, full of guilt, fear, wild ideas about starting over in Alaska and getting clean. She didn't want her son growing up with that as his male blueprint. But now, enough. She took one envelope and laid it gently on the table, no words. When Josh returned, he spotted it right away. "What's this?" he asked, like she'd laid a grenade on the table. "It's the beginning. If you want to understand why this house is more than just bricks, read." He read that, then another dot, and another dot, then went out to the car and sat there, engine off. For nearly an hour. The next morning he looked like a man who hadn't just lost sleep, but lost footing. "Mum, I talked to Madison. We're not buying that lot." Helen just raised an eyebrow. Pause. "We found another place. In Seattle. I think we should stay close. I could help fix the place up. Or, maybe we could modernize it." "You deserve comfort," she smirked. "Dry as a tea bag, reused 3 times. Comfort. I wore comfort out in a torn robe and 3 Jobs. If you want to give me something, don't build. Just be here." He moved to hug her. She stepped back. "Son, this isn't a movie. No orchestra. No neat catharsis. You're grown. Now you know what your easy life cost." "I really didn't know," he mumbled. "And that's the scariest part. Madison, by the way, left that evening, said the drama level was unfamiliar." Helen didn't object, didn't even close the door behind her. Just her and Josh again. First time in 10 years. "You never told me about him," Josh said, glancing at the letters, "because you deserve to be your own man, not a shadow of someone who quit. Sometimes it's better to burn the root than let the tree grow crooked." "You were alone," he said. "This whole time, even with people around, alone." She looked at him. "Sometimes being alone is a choice. And sometimes it's gratitude that you don't have to explain why you're still standing." He left 2 days later. No big goodbye. Just a vague "I'll call more often." She didn't didn't believe it. But that evening, a knock on the door. He stood there with a box. Inside the old toaster, fixed. "I remember you said it was broken." "This is an unexpected gesture," she said, almost like affection. He smirked. "It is affection. Just no fireworks." She didn't take the box, just walked back into the house, leaving the door open. Let him decide what to do with this cracked but still breathing connection. You thought this was a story about a mother. Wait, you're about to find out what she's really been hiding all these years. And it will change everything you believed about sacrifice. Chapter 4. Can sacrifice be a cover story? Helen kept the truth hidden to protect her son's future. But what if he's part of the secret she's been guarding for over 30 years? The house had gone strangely quiet. Not peaceful, not calm. Suspiciously quiet. Helen sat by the window, staring at the old plum tree. It hadn't borne fruit in years. Just long, brittle limbs stretching skyward. A reminder that even a barren tree can still be alive. That's when she made her decision. She pulled out a box labeled, barely legibly, "Hospital. 1988. Her hands trembled, as if her body was trying to stop something her mind had already set in motion. Inside, a blue-ribboned medical folder records discharge papers, an adoption consent form, but no name. "I'm sorry, Josh," she whispered. "But you deserve to know." It all began in the spring of 1988. She was 24, a hospital orderly in Chester, when they handed her a newborn male, NN, 3 days old. Mother refused custody. He cried non-stop. And then he didn't, like he realized he had no one left to cry for. Her hand moved. Her heart followed. I'm not here to raise anyone's child, she had told the head nurse. I'm here to change bedsheets, not fates. And yet, she stayed. 3 weeks later, she walked out with that baby. No husband, no support, no plan, but one crystal clear thought: no one will ever hurt him, not even the truth. Now, the truth lay in front of her, heavy as a cinder block on her chest. Josh had no clue, not one word. She had stitched together a fictional marriage, a made-up dad who moved away, and childhood photos, featuring the neighbor posed as a stand-in father, and the man in expensive shoes and sharp words did not know who he was, and she was terrified. He'd never know who he could be. On the third day, Josh called, his voice softer than she remembered, or maybe she'd just forgotten what sincerity sounded like. Mom, do you have a minute? Even two? What's going on? I was going through old pictures. Something doesn't add up. There's a birth date, then just silence. Is there something you haven't told me? She exhaled, not gasped, not sobbed. Just exhaled, like someone who's carried a secret across an entire lifetime. Come over, she said. I'll show you everything. He entered not like a son, but like a detective. He didn't look around the room, he looked through it. She laid the folder on the table, slowly, wordlessly. This is it. This is everything I could hide. And now, everything I can't. He picked it up, read, in silence. 5 minutes, 10, 14, you adopted me. His voice was glass, smooth, but with sharp edges. I saved you. You call that lying? She stood, slowly, walked to the window. I called it love. You can call it whatever you want. He left without a word. No door slam, no goodbye, no promises. She sat at the kitchen table, opened a can of beans she didn't need, just to hold something, anything, while the rest of her life slipped out from under her. Well, Helen, she muttered, you're free now. Only question is what the hell to do with it. The next day, Mary showed up. No call, no warning. He called me, she said, asked if anyone else knew. I said yes, I knew. We all knew, everyone, except him. Helen sat down as if her legs gave out. Does he want to know who his birth mother is? He wants to know who he is, not who raised him. Isn't that the same thing? Mary shook her head. It never is, sister. You gave him a home, but you didn't give him a choice. And now he's making one. What if being a mother isn't about giving life, but about lying to protect it? Next comes the hardest part. Josh will search for the woman who gave birth to him, and Helen may lose the only thing she ever lived for. Chapter 5. What's worse? Losing your child or being erased from their memory? Helen stayed silent out of love. Now love demands she let go. Josh hadn't called in 3 days, and for Helen, that was worse than any argument. Her son's silence was like an empty chair at the dinner table, the plate still set, not because he'd be back soon, but because she couldn't bear to admit he might never come back at all. On the 4th day, Mary called. He went to Tucson. There's a woman there. Records match the birth date and surrender form. He thinks she might be his mother. Has he spoken to her? He wants to meet her. Helen hung up. No sound, but something inside howled. She wasn't jealous. No, that would be too petty. She was afraid, shaking, panicking, asking questions. She didn't dare say out loud, what if the woman was better? What if she regretted giving him up? What if he chose her? You can't compete with blood, whispered the voice inside. But damn it, I'll try, Helen answered. On the 6th day, he called. I met her. Silence. She didn't want me then. And she doesn't want me now. Helen didn't know whether to cry or breathe. And how did that feel? She asked. Like everything happened the way it was supposed to. You're my mother. She closed her eyes, and the memories flooded in. Hospitals, loneliness, winters without heat, and one small face she'd held onto at night like a lifeline. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For choosing me, even when you had a choice. He came back the next day. No flowers, no toaster, a box inside, the deed to the house. And a note, you've paid long enough. It's time I paid you back, she cried. For the first time in a decade, not silently, not stoically, but raw, like a woman who'd been carried her whole life and was finally set down. That evening they had dinner together, in the kitchen. No restaurants, no diets, beans, potatoes, toast from the toaster he'd once fixed. You know, Mom, Josh said, chewing thoughtfully, I used to think sacrifice was noble, and now I know it scars you, unless you speak it out loud. She nodded. Everything I did in silence, and I took it all like it was owed to me. Maybe it's time we stopped talking, she said. Maybe it's time we sat in the same silence, he replied, half smiling. They laughed, and in that laughter was the silence they had both been waiting for. The next morning, Helen slept. No need to save, no need to prove, no need to carry. In the kitchen, fresh coffee, with milk, no sugar, and a note. You're not alone anymore. Now it's official. A mother's sacrifice isn't heroic. It's a transaction. And if the child accepts it, it stops being a sacrifice at all. What if you spent your whole life thinking you were protecting your child, and in the end, you were just trying to save yourself?